Assistant Superintendent, Communications and Reports.
Not tonight.
Are you serious?
Well, actually, since you've asked twice, I would, I talked about this. You heard that, Alan, that's twice. One of a couple of things I will apprise the community of is that, because Dr. Clark has told me that, it'd be nice if tonight I didn't talk as much or at all. But I will tell you, he did, and I'm just putting words in his mouth. We do have acuity training, which is the last round of acuity training coming up, and it starts on Monday. More importantly, I attended a session today on the iStep updates, because iStep is twice this year. And if you have any questions, technically the second round is there's 2 sessions. So in February and in March, they'll be taking the applied skills portion of the iStep. That's grades 3 through 8. Then in late April, they'll be taking the multiple choice, and both of those contain components of language arts, math, and some grades, science and social studies. So we've got all 3 of those tests coming up. And then the end of course assessments, which is the high school equivalent of the old GQE, will be in place in May. And students that are freshmen and 8th graders on down have to pass an Algebra 1 and English 10 and of course assessment to graduate. And the current sophomores as well as juniors and seniors can still pass the GQE, and we'll be giving that retest in March. So there's a lot of the testing forefront towards the end of the year, and we're constantly getting updates and working with the principals on that. So it's important that the community know that those are all state implemented tests, but we have a lot of those on the horizon. So I would just add that couple notes there, and that way I at least said
Thank you for that report.
You're welcome, Mr. Woodward.
Okay. Dr. Clark.
In your packet, you have a copy of the 2008 Annual Performance Report, which is required of districts to submit to the local media, and we have done that. It's been published. It has some pretty good data in it. I'd ask that you review it. Along with that data, you need to also know simultaneously we're going through our iStep scores, and we're Mr. Housewall and our principals and our staff are tearing those scores down and looking at trends and looking at the results pretty carefully. And everything I say tonight would be fairly preliminary, but we have some real bright spots, to be honest with you, in regard to our performance, and we have some areas where we have some concerns. There seems to be one effort that we've had, one area that has plagued most school systems across the country, and Indiana is no different, is this issue regarding special needs students and their performance in the gap. It would appear that we're closing the gap, and that's a pretty significant trend. Our lower grades are pretty strong, they show stronger performances. However, one of the trends that we will study, and the principals haven't heard this, nor have Bill or the others, but there seems to be some gender gaps. And so we'll be looking at achievement both in English, language arts, and math in regard to boys and girls and how they perform, depending on the grade level, depending on they tend to peak and valley sometimes, so we'll look at some of those trends, and I want you to be aware of that. But the annual performance report is in your packet. Additionally, you have information on your agenda regarding South Harrison Kindergarten Roundup dates for 2009-2010 at New Middletown. They have been set for April the 20th and April the 23rd. And I want to commend the board members that have worked in the past. You've all really kind of come to our aid, and you've worked those events for us. And we continue year in and year out get tremendous compliments from your presence and your assistance in that. So that the new parents that come through our doors in the fall have had an opportunity through the Roundup to meet their board members. You also need to know that February 2nd through the 6th this week is National School Counseling Week, and we are in the process of sending out little notes and little token of our appreciation to our school counselors. They gave a report earlier to the board earlier this year, and it's nice that we take pause and give them some recognition. I want to report to you that we have tentatively set a date, a working retreat date for the board for February the 26th. That's a Thursday evening. The time would be approximately 6 o'clock to about 9 to 9:30. Michael Adamson from ISBA will be here, and we will be conducting a workshop with the board regarding the roles and responsibilities and so forth. We are also hoping to have Mr. John Bailey from Bose McKinney and Evans. They'll be a tag team, so they'll be presenting as well. While we're involved in that, you will also need to know that the administrative team is working to get together a date where we can begin a strategic planning session, because that was one of the feedbacks that we got from board leadership last year, is that we need to begin to work on setting some pretty established plans and goals for the upcoming year. So we're working on that. One of the things that we continue to hear, that most of the phone calls that I have received in the last few days has dealt with graduation. So I thought maybe I would address the graduation dates. We don't know. Dr. Bennett, the new state superintendent, has informed us, and I had a conversation with him not too long ago, in the last 2 or 3 days, that he would like to waive some of the days. However, their days of instruction are set by the legislature. And so there is right now dialogue going back and forth between the governor's office, state superintendent's office, and the legislature in regard to the number of days that will or will not be allowed to be waived. I will tell you that it looks as though we've missed 7 days, 3 of which are built into the calendar for snow makeup days. We already know what those are. Anything beyond that, I have not had an opportunity to meet with our SAGA representatives, and we are planning on meeting, I think, this Friday. We established that minutes before the meeting. But we will talk about our calendar, but it's a good possibility that we will move graduation to June 7th. If those days cannot be waived, we will be forced to move the graduation back a week. The other part of that is, and I was sent an email yesterday from another paper across the river, but they wanted to know, would we submit a request for the waiver? If there are provisions to make that request, we will join many other schools in the area and make the request for waiver of days. So, but right now we are in a holding pattern. But we will have some discussion about any type of altering of the current calendar that we have for the balance of the year with SHEA on Friday, and we will constantly monitor that through the state superintendent's office so that you know. One other item that I want to share with you, and that is Mr. Littlepop that has expressed a concern regarding what we call in the school business as PDA. It's called, it's an acronym for Public Display of Affection. It basically means that we have a number of our students that are infatuated with each other, and they're holding hands, or they're hugging, or they're kissing, or embracing, or whatever. There is a policy against the PDA in our schools, and I will again address this with the principals. The principals are very aware of the policy. They're not PDA police officers for the most part, but they do monitor it, and we will remind our principals and our student body, and we'll have a conversation with our student reps that came in and talked tonight about the policies regarding PDA. We do not allow it, do not encourage it. In fact, it's prohibited in our schools, so we'll address that.